Sonicstate here at Synthfest 2022, and I'm here with Tom from Source, who's representing Eventide. Now, we've seen this first at Superbooth, the Eventide Misha. Now, this is a very interesting thing, certainly for Eventide, to make what's ostensibly an instrument rather than an effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Just think it's sort of like, when you explore it a little bit, you just sort of think, well, it really just reeks of someone at Eventide's a passion project for them, and it just seems like, you know, someone that works for this company is very much into Eurorack and has persuaded them to release a sort of mad instrument.
Yeah. Now, let's just do a basic overview. If you've not seen this before, it's ostensibly a music theory device, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
In that we can use it as pitch quantizing, but we can also play notes from it. There's some kind of record features.
Yeah.
I think, over to you, the expert, though.
Yeah.
Give us a little brief overview of it.
Yeah, so what we have fundamentally is a device where you pick a scale and a root note, and then you can further define notes within that scale by just popping it into record, and then adding in the intervals that you want, and then immediately it will just play those back. And you can be fooled into thinking that is the instrument and that is the sequencer, but then it gets interesting when you can add in jumps in that list of...
Right, so the graphics on here, we can go up like -1, down a step of the scale, down 2 steps of the scale, down 3 steps, down 4 steps, or up.
But they also, once you've defined your steps in the scale, in a list called a tone list, you then can define jumps in your tone list as well. And that really is the performative aspect, or one of the many performative aspects of it. And then you can add and remove them just with the buttons as it plays in real time.
Should just mention though, the sound we're hearing is, the Eventide isn't really a sound producing instrument, but usefully it does actually produce a very simple sine tone, so you can hear what you're doing. Really what to hear it properly would be to patch it into other kind of oscillators or whatever. And
it also sings really, really well out of the MIDI out, because it gives you the chords out of the MIDI out as well. It's great for playing certain instruments.
So I noticed the USB there, is that just for firmware, or is that...
No, so it's been designed so you can use it with a QWERTY keyboard. That's another quirk of the instrument as well. So you can attach a QWERTY instrument via USB-C. QWERTY keyboard. It will become an instrument. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and then you can assign that as you want. It's very, very customizable. Any button nearly on the front panel you can assign to something else, and you can make it do a lot of things. You can make it bottle fruit. It's a really powerful little box.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of like a product category, it's kind of creating its own category in a way, because it's not just a pitch quantizer. It's not just like, I guess it's got some similarities to an arpeggiator.
Yeah.
It's some similarities to a sequencer.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's just sort of a mad little sequencer. It's about the closest you could get to. Yeah.
But it's a lot to do with being able to interact in a meaningful kind of music. I said music theory earlier, and what's interesting, I think, to me is that you can use it. If you're really up on your music theory, then you're going to be able to go very deep with this. But conversely, if you don't know anything about music theory, it's a good way to kind of get into making music that sort of adheres to music theory rules.
I've never seen a Eurorack instrument before that takes in things that are called Eurorack things, like control voltages and triggers, and assigns them to things that are called music theory things, like scale and root notes and octave shift and things like that, and chromatic shifting. Yeah. So that's a really good way to put it. Is that it's a CV to music theory converter.
Okay.
That's a great idea. I think.
Nice. So I mean. So the depth of this, then, I guess it's one of these things where it goes as deep as the user, really.
Absolutely, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So, because you could automate key changes, you could automate sort of scalic changes, steps and shifts up and down within scales.
That's it. You can do that very quickly. If you jump into the menu here, which will stop the output, and you go into CV inputs, it kind of gives you an idea of the kind of things that you can do. So if you just have a look at trigger mapping, so this will be this trigger input here. You can move through your tone list by triggers. You can chromatic. You can have chromatic shifting. You can change the scale. You can change your key signature. You can change the chord type with the trigger, and it's got 3 different triads, jazz chords in it, all sorts going on, and then. You can decide to find the way those change as well in these sub-menus. It's very, very...
So with a little bit of knowledge, you could bluff and make it sound like you're like some jazz genius.
Absolutely. And that's what we were trying to approximate.
My kind of device.
We were trying to approximate giant steps on it earlier.
Right.
And we were doing 2/5 chains with key shifts every two chords. So yeah, absolutely you can. Yeah.
So I thought that this is why it really caught my eye, really, because I suppose it's a little bit of a cliche to sort of say that Eurorec is just bleeps and bloops, but what this is essentially doing, though, is bringing in some really fundamental, deep music knowledge and then being able to integrate it into any kind of Eurorack situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does make it quite unique. So now it's shipping now. So do we know how much it is?
I think the street price is $599.
$599. Okay. Which, considering it's a very kind of deep, highly configurable unit. And again, with the MIDI in, you could be playing all of this from.
Yeah, the MIDI in mirrors a lot of the function by default because it's all customizable. Mirrors a lot of the default, a lot of the functionality of the buttons on the front here. So it's when you plug a MIDI keyboard in straight away, you're going to find that playing the same key twice doesn't play the same note twice because you're stepping through intervals, as you're stepping through notes by that interval, like the same as you are on the front panel here. But that's all customizable.
But that means that you can shred like kind of Rick Wakeman or sort of Jordan Rudess and sound like you're really, really good.
That's it.
When you're just hitting any keys.
Yeah. And you can be going up in fourths while you're then going up in chromatic shifts and things like that, and just do all these. That's right, all these runs. Musical runs.
Yeah, amazing.
Great.
Tom, thanks for showing us
this. Yeah, great. Nice to guys. Cheers.
I want it.